All right, if you've had us build one heck of a 200 series cruiser for you, what's the next thing? Clearly, time to upgrade the caravan as well. So we've put a mad electrical system in this thing, partnered with Enerdrive on it. Come down, check it out, we'll show you through what we've got. So we've got the 200 series cruiser here. Now we built this cruiser last year for this client and he's now bought a caravan and wanted to get the whole system working together really, really well and make sure everything was going to actually function together. So he already had 200 amps of lithium under bonnet. To handle the system we put in the caravan, we've done an alternator upgrade, so it's a 250 amp brushless alternator to handle the loads that we're putting on it. We've also installed a 2600 watt inverter in the back of this so that he can actually charge also from a 240 source into the caravan as well, but we'll talk about what's in the van shortly. As part of the upgrades, he's loving our Zenith light pod, so we've put one of those on this car as well now just to bring it up to spec of what the latest products that we've got out. We did do an aerial change, so we put a shorter aerial on it as well. But that pretty much sums up all we've done to the car, other than running Andersons to the back, or heavier Andersons to the back to deal with the system in the caravan. Outside of that, car's pretty much the same as it was before. So let's run that again. We've done alternator upgrade. He already had 200 amps of lithium under bonnet, and we've added a 2600 watt inverter into this system as well to charge the caravan from. So that wraps up the car. Let's go and have a look at the back of it and we'll just show you exactly where we've placed that inverter. So in the back of the car here, we've got one of our Zenith draw systems. So this is a really early one that we did, but what we've done is down beside the draw system, we've managed to fit in the 2600 watt inverter. So nice and simple, it's got an RCD built into it, so it's all protected, circuit protected for pulling draws off it. Turn the unit on, plug in, away you go. Nice and simple, not overcomplicated. And it's also protected and safe. All right, so behind me here, we've got a Titan Blackhawk Hybrid 480. Came with 220 amp hour AGMs, and it just wasn't gonna cut the mustard for him. So he really wanted to be able to run the air conditioner, the microwave, the coffee machine, you name it, all the gear. So we have jammed the biggest system that we could put in this thing. We've fit as many solar panels on the roof as it would take, and jammed as much solar in as we could. We've put two DC-DC chargers in, 120 amp, AC charger, 3000 watt inverter. So let's jump around the other side, show you where the system's located, and get you run through that. Okay, so this is the business side of things. The batteries used to sit in here, so we've removed those, we've put some rubber down, put some protective covers over, fuse boxes and everything that already existed, and we've cut a hole in the side of this. We've reinforced the bed with a steel structure, all painted and screwed off, and then inside here is actually the system itself. So what you can see here is we've got 600 amps of lithium available. We've got all our fusing and circuitry on the left-hand side for that. We've got a TriStar 60 amp solar regulator. We've got two 40 amp DC-DC chargers running overclocked, and we've got the 3000 watt inverter charger with a 120 amp charger built into it. As you can see, RCD there as well, protecting the 240 circuits in this caravan. So what that means with the 3000 watt AC charger inverter is we can plug our 240 source in. It will immediately take over any 240 loads that you've got running. You can run a computer basically off this system, and it won't shut the computer down between the transfer between AC and pulling off the batteries. It'll then also kick the charger into gear and start recharging the batteries separately. So you're not actually drawing off the system while you're recharging. We've got the solar separate out of the DC chargers, you probably noticed. So the reason for that is basically maximum recharging capacity. So we can be traveling down the road, solar coming in through our solar regulator separately, and our DC to DC chargers coming in as well. So we've got 600 amps potential recharge here that needs to happen, so that we want to basically be able to recharge that as fast as possible. We've seen out of the two DC-DC chargers, roughly about 90 amps, which is pretty good considering it's running obviously all the way from the front all the way down the back. So we're getting about 90 amps out of those two DC-DC chargers, and then we're getting the benefit of solar on top of that as well, all while driving down the road. Now, we've done this in two completely separate circuits, so we've got redundancy. So if one fails, the other one's still charging the system. So if for whatever reason one DC-DC fails, the other one's still going to keep charging. If we have a cable failure or something for one of the DC-DC chargers or an Anderson plug failure, the other one has got its own complete circuit from front to back. It's a little bit of overkill, but it builds a bit of redundancy into the system as well. We've also added the Cymarine into this one. So let's go up the top and show you exactly what the Cymarine's got to show for itself. Back in the same location where the original displays were for the batteries, we've remade the board and installed the Cymarine, and we've also installed the controller for the inverter charger as well. So on the Cymarine here, we can see right now we're pulling off the battery. So we have the aircon running, all the lights running. We're pulling about 17 amps out. Now, at the moment, it will still be drawing some charge off the batteries in the car, which is totally fine, totally happy for it to do that. We've got 200 amps of lithium in the car as well that we can utilize. So all in all, he's got 800 amps of lithium roughly that he can be using for this setup. So at the moment, one DC-DC charger is running, or they're both running at half capacity, and we're putting about 40 amps in. We've got about 3 minutes time to charge, and we're running the AC as well. So there you go. You can see what's happening here. We've got two DC-DC chargers running because it's basically at its full capacity. One's only charging at 30 amps and one's charging at 20 amps. So they'll level out the charge, and then once it's full, they'll back the charge off. We've got our solar input there, so when we're out in the sun, we're in the shed right now, when we're out in the sun, that'll start dialing in as well. This is now also water monitoring. So he's got two freshwater tanks underneath this. Both of them are 85 litres, and we're monitoring both of those so that he can use them. He does have the option to drain both at once, or he can run individual tanks separately and know exactly where he's at any given time. So that's our cabinet temperature. So we're a bit hot there at the moment because we've really drained this system down. We've had the AC charger running, we've had the inverter running, we've had the AC running, we've had DC chargers running. So basically we've pushed this system to its absolute limits, maxed out everything as hard as we can push it, and our cabinet temperature is about 37 degrees. So it's a little bit high, but we've had everything closed up. If you were going to push the system that hard, we'd say just open up a couple of those vents a little bit more if you're going to push the system as hard as we have been today. That pretty much wraps us up. So that's our main screen that we can see for the Cymarine. The next one over is actually our AC inverter charger. So we've got a lot of information here, but we've got a battery voltage, we've got battery current. So right now the inverter and the AC is pulling 8 amps out of the system, and our temperature at that unit is 44 degrees. Remembering that we have been running this thing absolutely as hard as we possibly can. So we've got the AC running, AC charge coming in, we'd had the batteries drained right down, so it's recharging batteries and running the aircon at the same time. So like I said, we've been testing this system and absolutely punishing it to make sure that it's going to stand up when he's out remote with his setup. So we've got our AC voltage in. Right now we don't have any input, so it's purely running off the batteries in the van and in the car, so we don't have any AC to worry about. So that gives you basically all of the details specifically for that. We can turn that unit on and off from right here. We don't have to get down into the cabinet or anything. There's a little trap door just behind us here for entry into the fusing to make that nice and simple from the cabin as well. All the other systems in the van are predominantly left exactly as they are. So we didn't change the wiring in the van. There's no need to, didn't have to. That's exactly as it came out of the box. It's running two fridges. So it's running this little upright here, and it's running another chest fridge down the bottom there. So fair bit of current draw, fair bit of use. He's going to get a really good runtime out of this thing. He's got 580 watt panels on the roof. So let's check those out now. Okay, so up here we've got the 5 Enerdrive panels. So these are 580 watt panels. So in theory, this can actually overclock the TriStar 60 amp regulator that we've got down there. Is it likely to do that? Probably not. Efficiency losses over the distance of the cable, etc., etc. It's pretty unlikely that we're going to overclock it. So pretty big solar system. It's a maximum amount of panels we could fit up here. Of course, we would love to fit more, but limited by the amount of roof space we've got, so 5 it was. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the caravan. As you can see, pretty much we've set up the whole car and caravan combo to all work in unison. We've got 2 Anderson plugs, 2 runs of cable to the front, 2 runs of cable into the van so that we've got ultimate charging. We've got 2 DC-DC chargers, we've got a 250 amp alternator to handle the loads. It's all set up to work together and in conjunction with each other and maximize his ability to recharge the system whenever he needs to. Running the aircon, microwave, whatever his heart desires, he can run it for pretty much as long as he wants. There you go, guys. Huge one, this one, but it's all wrapped up. Time to hand him over.